1913, a German chemical company mass-produces chlorine gas. It is used as a weapon in World War I. After the war, they need a peacetime market for the surplus. They dilute it, bottle it, call it household bleach, sell it to housewives as cleanliness. 112 years later, Americans pour 400 million pounds of chlorine bleach into their homes every year. It corrodes pipes, it burns airways, it reacts with organic matter to produce carcinogenic byproducts. And the entire time, a common herb growing in any kitchen window produces a compound that does the same job without harming a single living cell in your body. This is the story of thyme, the disinfectant that never stopped killing. It just stopped being sold as one. The herb is Thymus vulgaris, common thyme. It grows no more than 12 inches tall, woody at the base, with tiny oval leaves that release a sharp, clean fragrance when crushed between your fingers. You have eaten it on roasted chicken. You have tasted it in soup. You have walked past it in every grocery store spice aisle in this country without once being told what it actually does. Because what it does has nothing to do with flavor, and everything to do with death. The death of bacteria, the death of viruses, the death of fungi, the death of every microscopic pathogen that the cleaning industry has spent a century telling you only chlorine can handle. The compound responsible is called thymol, and thymol is not a folk remedy. It is not a wellness trend. It is not something an influencer discovered last year and put in a smoothie. It is a registered antimicrobial agent, the United States. Environmental Protection Agency lists thymol-based disinfectants on its official registry of products approved to kill SARS-CoV-2, the virus that shut down the world. EPA List N. Look it up. Thymol is there. Hospital grade. Verified 1-minute contact time. 60 seconds and the virus is dead. Not reduced, dead. But before we get to the science, we go back. Because this herb did not begin its career as a disinfectant in a laboratory, it began in a tomb. The archive opens in Egypt, 3,000 years before the first bottle of bleach was manufactured in Oakland, California. Egyptian embalmers were packing the chest cavities of the dead with bundles of dried thyme. They did not call the active compound thymol. They did not have gas chromatography or electron microscopes. But they understood, through generations of observation, that this particular herb stopped flesh from rotting. It arrested decay. It held death still, and they trusted it with the most sacred task their civilization performed, the preservation of the body for the afterlife. This was not ritual. This was applied chemistry. The embalmers observed that bodies packed with thyme did not putrefy the way others did. The bacteria that consumed dead tissue, the organisms responsible for decomposition, could not survive in the presence of this plant. 3,000 years ago in the Nile Valley, humans identified an antibacterial agent and deployed it with precision. They did not need a peer-reviewed journal to tell them it worked. The evidence was lying in front of them, perfectly preserved. From Egypt, the knowledge migrated to Greece. The ancient Greeks burned thyme as incense in their temples, not merely for fragrance, but because they believed it purified the air. They added it to bathwater. They packed it into wound dressings. The Greek word thymus means courage, and Greek soldiers bathed in thyme-infused water before battle. But beneath the symbolism was a practical truth. Wounds washed with thyme healed faster. Rooms fumigated with thyme smoke harbored less sickness. The herb was doing something invisible, something the Greeks could observe in outcomes even if they could not name the mechanism. Then came Rome, and with Rome came Dioscorides. Pedonius Dioscorides was a Greek physician serving in the Roman army in the 1st century. Between 50 and 70 AD, he compiled a 5-volume work called De Materia Medica, the most comprehensive pharmaceutical text of the ancient world. It was read, copied, and referenced for more than 1,500 years after his death. Inside its pages, thyme appears. Dioscorides recorded its use as a medicine for respiratory illness, as a digestive aid, and as a treatment for infections. He documented what Egypt had practiced and Greece had ritualized, and his text carried the knowledge forward through the collapse of Rome, through the Dark Ages, through the medieval period, into the hands of every European apothecary who came after. For 2,000 years, thyme was medicine, not alternative medicine, not complementary medicine. Medicine the only kind there was. And then, in the second half of the 19th century, a chemist isolated the molecule. 1859, A German chemist named Caspar Neumann had already described thymol decades earlier. But it was in the mid-1800s that the compound was formally isolated, crystallized, and studied. What scientists found confirmed everything the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Romans had observed. Thymol penetrates the cell membranes of bacteria. It disrupts the lipid bilayer, the outer wall that holds a bacterial cell together. Once that wall is breached, the contents leak, the cell dies. It does not develop resistance the way it does to synthetic antibiotics because thymol attacks the structure itself, not a single metabolic pathway. The mechanism is physical destruction, not chemical trickery. And here is where the timeline splits, because at the exact moment, science confirmed that thymol was a genuine, powerful antimicrobial agent. Two very different paths emerged. One path used the knowledge honestly, the other buried it for profit. The honest path came first, 1879, St. Louis, Missouri. A doctor named Joseph Lawrence developed a liquid antiseptic for use in surgery. He formulated it from a blend of essential oils, thymol from thyme eucalyptus, from eucalyptus, menthol from mint, and methyl salicylate from wintergreen. He named it after Sir Joseph Lister, the English surgeon who had pioneered antiseptic surgery in Glasgow. The product was called Listerine, and for its first decades of existence, it was sold as exactly what it was: a powerful germicidal agent for use in operating rooms, wound care, and oral surgery. Listerine worked. It killed bacteria on contact. Surgeons trusted it. Hospitals purchased it. And its primary active ingredient, the one doing the majority of the killing, was thymol, a compound from a kitchen herb. The most successful antiseptic product in American history was built on a molecule that grows in a windowsill pot. But there was a problem. Thyme grows everywhere. Thymol can be extracted by anyone with a still and a patch of garden. You cannot build a monopoly on a compound that nature distributes for free. So the path forked, the other path, the profitable one, 1913. Oakland, California. 5 businessmen pooled $100 each and founded the Electro-Alkaline Company. Their product was liquid sodium hypochlorite, bleach. They manufactured it by running electrical current through salt water, producing chlorine gas, and dissolving it into a sodium hydroxide solution. The brand name was Clorox. First-year sales were almost non-existent. Nobody knew what bleach was. Nobody wanted it. But chlorine had one advantage: thymol did not. It could be manufactured at industrial scale from cheap raw materials, salt, and electricity, and it could be patented in process, if not in molecule. More importantly, it was already being produced in enormous quantities for another purpose. World War I had created a chlorine industry. Fritz Haber, the German chemist who had weaponized chlorine gas at Ypres in 1915, killing thousands of Allied soldiers in minutes, had demonstrated that chlorine could be produced cheaply, in bulk, and deployed rapidly. After the war, the infrastructure remained. The factories remained, the supply chains remained, and they needed a customer. The customer became the American household. By the 1920s, Clorox was marketing bleach directly to consumers. By the 1940s, it was in every American home. By 2024, the Clorox company reported annual revenue of $7.1 billion. One company, one product line, built on a chemical weapon diluted for domestic use. And Listerine, the honest antiseptic built on thymol, it was repositioned. In the 1920s, the company pivoted from marketing it as a surgical disinfectant to marketing it as a cure for bad breath. They invented a social anxiety, halitosis, and sold the solution for it. The most powerful herbal antimicrobial in American commerce was rebranded as a mouthwash. The word disinfectant disappeared from its advertising. The connection between thymol and germ killing was quietly moved to the back of the label. In fine print, where no consumer would ever think to look, the herb that had killed bacteria in Egyptian tombs was now selling fresh breath. And the chemical weapon that had killed soldiers in Belgian trenches was now selling clean countertops. That is the fork. That is the decision that was made for you without your knowledge or your consent. And it was made entirely on economics. Bleach is cheap to manufacture at scale. Thymol is cheap to grow at home. One of these generates $7 billion in annual corporate revenue. The other generates nothing. The market chose the one that could be sold, not the one that worked better, not the one that was safer, the one that could be controlled, and now the modern science. Because the confirmation did not stop coming just because the market stopped listening. 2022, a peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Hospital Infection, researchers aerosolized live SARS-CoV-2, the virus responsible for the global pandemic, into a controlled room environment. They then introduced thyme oil vapor at a dilution of 1 to 1,000. The result, greater than 99.99% inactivation of airborne viral particles within 60 minutes, not on a surface, in the air. Thyme vapor killed coronavirus floating in a room. The study confirmed what the Greeks had intuited when they burned thyme in their temples to purify the air. 23 centuries later, the mechanism is identical. The outcome is identical. Only now we have the electron microscopy to prove it. The EPA has registered multiple thymol-based products as hospital-grade disinfectants. They appear on List N, the official registry of products proven effective against SARS-CoV-2. Contact time, 1 minute. Effective against bacteria, including Staphylococcus, aureus E. coli, Salmonella, and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Effective against influenza A. Effective against human coronavirus. No chlorine, no ammonia, no volatile organic compounds, no respiratory irritation, no surface corrosion, no hazard label required. Now compare that to what is under your kitchen sink right now. Sodium hypochlorite, household bleach, is classified as a corrosive oxidizer. The CDC documents that exposure to bleach fumes causes irritation of the eyes, nose, and respiratory tract. At higher concentrations, it causes pulmonary edema fluid in the lungs. When bleach contacts organic matter, food residue, skin cells, anything biological on your counter, it produces tricholamethans. The EPA classifies 2 of the 4 regulated tricholamethans as likely carcinogenic to humans. You are generating probable carcinogens every time you wipe down your kitchen counter with bleach. And the alternative, the one that kills the same pathogens without producing a single toxic byproduct, is growing in a 4-inch pot on your neighbor's windowsill. The disinfectant industry does not want you to disinfect your home. It wants you to pay to disinfect your home. There is a difference. Thyme grows in any climate, in any soil, in a container, on a balcony, or a patch of dirt by the back door. It is a perennial plant at once, and it returns every year for a decade or more. A single plant produces enough leaf material to make disinfectant spray for an entire household for an entire year. The cost of a thyme seedling at any nursery in America is between $2 and $4. The cost of a year's supply of commercial disinfectant products for an average household is between $80 and $150. One of these numbers sustains a $7 billion corporation, the other does not. And that is the only reason you were never told. Here is what you can do. Harvest thyme at peak oil content just before or during flowering. In dry weather, mid-morning after the dew has burned off. Dry the cuttings in shade for 3 to 5 days. Strip the leaves, steep 1 ounce of dried thyme in 2 cups of boiling water for 30 minutes, covered. Strain, add to a spray bottle. This is a thymol-rich surface spray, effective against common household bacteria. For a stronger preparation, a simple steam distillation of fresh thyme produces essential oil with thymol concentrations between 20 and 54%. Laboratory-grade antimicrobial potency from a plant you grew yourself, that is it. That is what 3,000 years of knowledge looks like when you are allowed to remember it. The Egyptians packed it into the chests of kings. The Greeks burned it in sacred temples. Dioscorides prescribed it to Roman legions. Joseph Lawrence built the most successful antiseptic in American history from it. And then a chemical company in Oakland diluted a war gas, gave it a friendly name, and spent a century making sure you forgot that a kitchen herb could do the same job without burning your lungs, corroding your pipes, or generating a single molecule of carcinogen in your home. Thyme did not stop working. The studies keep confirming it. 99.99% viral inactivation, 60-second bacterial kill time, EPA registration, hospital-grade efficacy, peer-reviewed, published, verified, and completely absent from the cleaning aisle of every major retailer in this country. Not because it failed the tests, because it passed them too well. Because a product that grows in a pot and never needs repurchasing is not a product at all. It is a threat. The herb does not care about market share. It does not care about your ignorance or your loyalty to a brand. It just keeps growing. Tiny oval leaves, woody stems, that sharp, clean fragrance that the Egyptians trusted with eternity and the Greeks trusted with courage. It is still here. It has outlasted every company that tried to replace it. It has outlasted every marketing campaign that tried to erase it. And it will outlast the next one too. Now you know what it is. Now you know what it does. Now you know what it costs. And now you know exactly why you were never told. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon, and what is inside it will be worse than this one. Not worse for you, worse for them.